From Svitek comes a weekly digital series where he shares his insights, concepts, and findings learned during his 15-year journey of working in the entertainment industry. Each lesson offers you a roadmap to overcome the challenges that all artists face on the path to success. Welcome to a Phil Svitek podcast.
Hello, I'm Phil Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and in this episode, I want to discuss one of the 4 agreements of Don Miguel Ruiz. So, first off, what the heck do I mean by an agreement? Well, it's basically, in a nutshell, a life principle. A principle to live by that will, make your life a little bit easier, if you will. And one of the big ones, I think, is always do your best. Now, what does this mean? This can be very intimidating at first because, does that mean, I always have to go, 100 miles an hour and so forth? No, that's not what that means. What it means ultimately is that you just always put your best foot forward. Now, your best foot might be if you're tired and have had to work multiple days and nights in a row. Well, your best might not be the same as if you were well rested, right? And so it's okay to give yourself permission to not be at your ideal output, but as long as you're putting your best. And so what it really comes down to for me is the ability that you won't have regrets or judgment against yourself if you're always doing your best. Gary Vee talks about this oftentimes. A lot of people say, there's an example that he uses where, someone tried to criticize him of hey, in order for you to get to me, meaning just to gain access, you would literally run through this glass wall, break down the glass, and get to me, when instead you could have gone around and there was a door right there, right? You're essentially not thinking. Well, it sounds good on paper. I think, we ideally all would want to work smarter, not harder. But when you're in the trenches, that's a lot more difficult. We can romanticize and, we can take a step back too often when things are in hindsight and be like, this is how things should have gone. But when you're a true practitioner, you don't really have that ability. You're in the trenches and you're going forward. So, you're just making the best decision you can at any given moment, and you just keep it moving. And I think that's the key. Oftentimes we berate ourselves for decisions we made in the past, but that's because, if you kind of just really adopt this idea that I'm always going to do my best, you can't have that. You won't have regret because you're always trying your best. And yeah, sure, it's easy in hindsight. I'm not saying you'll never make a mistake, but you won't have to judge yourself for it because in the moment that you made X, Y, and Z decision, you did it to the best of your ability. And when you start to do that, and this is a practice, like all things in life, skills can be learned, right? And the way you learn them is through practice. Now, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect, right? There's that kind of saying. So, by really putting an effort into this idea, you can really start to master it. And what it's really all about is just, especially right now with quarantine, so many people, I'll give you an example. There's people out there, that obviously, this is not a normal working condition. And so, our normal output is not going to be the same. You might be someone that has always worked from home before this, but you might be finding yourself something's a little off. Well, yeah, it's a little off. We're in a freaking pandemic. And so things are a little bit different. So your best right now during a quarantine session, pandemic, so forth, right? You can call it a world crisis if you really want. It's not going to be your ideal as if it was, in ideal circumstances when life is normal, quote unquote, right? And so we really have that perspective, really keep that in the back of your mind so that way, I think we all need to be a little bit kinder to ourselves, and this is just a way to do it, while at the same time, it also serves a very practical purpose because, I think too many of us get bogged down by fear of making the wrong choice. And it's like, you know what? Yeah, have an ability to really, kind of take a look at the facts. I'm not just saying blindly, just, pick, door A, B, or C. Look at the facts, but don't let it paralyze you. I mean, there's a fine balance, and in the future I'll kind of talk about an episode like that. Certainly based on my experience at AfterBuzz, things were very rapid, but I had to, at the same time I couldn't just, make snap decisions. Like I had to, weigh the pros and cons of certain things. But that's where tactics and so forth come in. But it starts with that idea that always do your best. And so when you do that, you can't have regrets. And that's what it really is all about. Anyway, it's a very powerful thing once you fully adopt it. I know it's tremendously altered my life. Whenever I've used this advice to people directly within my life, I've seen the benefits in their life when they're really conscious of it. And so I would encourage you to certainly go through that exercise yourself. Anyway, I hope that this has been beneficial in some small way. If you think someone in your life would benefit from this advice, by all means share it with them. If you have any questions or thoughts of your own, comment down below or hit me up on social media at Svitek. And if you're not following already, I would gladly invite you to do so. That way you get all the various lessons that I put out when I put them out, because I do put them out daily. Anyway, thank you for taking the time to tune in. I hope to see you next time.